What's going on, YouTube? In the house, in the house, in the house, in the house. Boom, we're on. For what? For what? What's going on, YouTube? In the house, in the house, in the house, in the house. Boom, we're on. For what? For what? Hi guys, alright, welcome back to the channel where we look at the podcast wars. What a peculiar few days it's been. I'm a bit lost as to what I've spoke about and what I haven't, if I'm honest. In the last videos, been a bit of a gap, is that? Feels like anyway. Yeah, something that just prompted me to make this video. I don't know why, but there's this strange thing that YouTubers do about swearing on people's lives and all that, as if that proves that they're being honest, I think so far this week I've heard people swearing on their grand's grave, their brother's ashes, and their children's eyeballs. And I remember being a kid, my stepfather saying to me, he thought I'd done something, I can't remember what it was, probably robbed his fags or something. And I was like, I haven't, honestly I haven't. And he said, on your mother's life? And I said, yeah, on mum's life, I haven't. And I had. And this was in about 1983. My mum's still alive. So that was 39 years ago. But if she dies next week, is that because I lied? Well, I hope not. Anyway, yeah, so they always do that. I'd say I was just thinking about it just now. I thought, oh, that's a good basis for an entire video, which is obviously not. Yeah, in the house, in the house. A lot of catchphrases now, innit? In the house, in the house. What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy. Boom, we're on. For what? For what? Right, the only real thing to discuss at this point in the game, well, there's two main things going on as I see it. Is obviously they stole my idea, didn't they, from my earlier video of the $9.99 pay-per-view flipping multiple fight bill. So that's going on now. There's going to be, I was thinking about it just now as well, there's going to be like a 3-month build up and going back to my other point, that's what it reminded me of. When you're in court, in Crown Court, and you have to swear on the Bible. I've only been in Crown Court once. Not guilty. Yeah, you got to swear on the Bible, and even if you're religious, and if you're in court and you're looking at like 20 years or something, and at the start, put your hand on the Bible, right? So, for emphasis, I'll put my hand on this, which isn't a Bible, it's a box of mince pies, but so you put your hand on the Bible, right? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God. And you're like, I can't tell the truth, I'll get 20 years. But it's the fucking Bible, innit? And it's like, yeah, I can't swear on the Bible because I'm about to lie like fuck. Because he got me banged to rights, governor. It's fucking nonsense, isn't it? So I swear on my kettle's handle that this video will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So now I've gone back to that, I've forgotten the next point. Yeah, a lot of catchphrases, that's the end of that. Yeah, two things been going on mainly in my viewing. We've got this big fight thing coming up now, where it's going to be annoying, isn't it? Paul from Fighting Trolls has gone into full promo mode. He's on his second opponent so far. He's a hell of a boy, isn't he? It's funny, like, I watch him quite a lot, and he's on about all the trolls and he's jealous, and sometimes, right, he can just annoy fuck on me, but I really like him. because even though he's like dull as fuck, and he, you know, like the rest of us, and you know, sometimes he'll have a guest on, he'll be talking to him, and they'll be on about something really like important, and then you'll see on his screen he's on his phone, and he'll be like, "Yeah, I am listening." So he's getting right into all this, and he, apparently Christie's going to be fighting now, top of the bill. Doesn't look like Declan Hedgecar is going to be involved, which is good because I said I wasn't going to talk about him anymore. But yeah, Fighting Trolls was supposed to fight Benson Hedges, and Ben Hatchett. No, that's on off, so that's going to be back at fucking force. So all that business, I'm trying not to get too involved in that at this stage. I think they've launched the promo a bit early, you know. I used to make this mistake with comedy nights, actually. I used to put on comedy nights, promote them and all that, and say the comedy night was going to be, right, based on today's date, say the comedy night was going to be on the 28th of January this month. Now, from now, for the next sort of 10 days, 2 weeks, I'd be bombarding people, fucking, oh, it's a comedy night, I got this comedian, that comedian, yeah, don't buy a ticket, but I'd fucking bombard people for 2 weeks. I get to about 2 weeks time, I think, oh, I need to lay off this shit, I'm getting on my own fucking nerves, that's all I'm talking about, is trying to sell tickets to this fucking nonsense. And then I'd stop talking about it for like about the week before the gig, you know, which is when I should have been promoting it. So I think they've gone in a bit early and all that. You know, they spend less time promoting like the Fury fucking Wilder fights, don't they? So yeah, that's, you know, obviously one of the big things that's getting talked about, but a bit early for me, that one. And the other thing has been the recently formed, fucking hell, I think it's already dead, but Positive Vibes. Dring, who you may know as one of the regular panelists on the quiz show Fighting Trolls, he decided he was going to launch his own channel called Positive Vibes. Now, there's obviously a clue in the title or in the name of the channel. The plan was that he was going to help people. He was going to have his own channel where he was going to help people with their struggles, with their mental health. And it didn't quite go to plan. Now, it's weird this is, because if you watch this, you'll know what I was on about, and I probably don't need to say anything. And if you didn't watch it, it's going to be impossible for me to do it justice. And I believe his channel's already been taken down now, so apart from a lot of the stuff that's been clipped on it, there are clips of all this knocking about, but watching the full build up to all this, you know, I think is that New Year's Eve it may have been, or New Year's Day in the night, I don't know, but there was one of them where the Ash Dring and that Geordie guy Paul was on, absolutely off his fucking head. Who else was there? PP was there. And apparently Geordie Paul's mum was in the chat. And, you know, because of the nature of YouTube, as soon as people knew his mum was in the chat and his mum's name, then there were people opening fake accounts in that name and posting in the chat as if they were her. And somebody tried to get on and put up a little image. And then Ashstring cut it off. And then Paul was speaking to his mum and he was like, Ash, my mum wants to come on. And Ash was like, no, Paul, I'm not letting her on. You know, there's people faking your mum in the chat. It's not her. And Paul's like, let her on. And it's like, Ash is like, no, I'm not, you know. At one point, Ash said, Paul, do you trust me? And Paul said, yeah. And Ash said, your mum's not coming on. And Paul was deeply hurt by this. He's like, what do you mean? And Ash like, she's not coming on. And Ash didn't know if it was really his mum. Do you know what I mean? He was just trying to say, I'm not having people coming on the show, on the panel, if I don't know it's definitely a mum. And Paul, because he'd had like, I don't know, several bottles of whiskey and a few bottles of vodka, I think, he was like, fucking let her on. And Ash fucking had to relent. Later on, and lo and behold, there was just a picture of this old biddy, some sort of porn imagery. I don't know if they'd superimposed a photo of Paul's actual mum's head onto it. I'm not sure. They may have. I read. But then obviously Paul was just freaking out. You know what I mean? Went absolutely ballistic. Ash was freaking out at the person who did it. Paul was saying, "Get that fucking off." Ash was like, "I don't know how to get it off." PP was like bemused. Because the first time it happened with not the pornographic image of an old biddy, but there was just some weird little image. I couldn't see it properly. It was only really small. But obviously somebody had come on as Paul's mum and it wasn't. And PP was just laughing his fucking head off. And it was just infectious. Do you know what I mean? He's lovely old PP. And, but as I say, if you were there, you know what I mean? And if you weren't, you just think, what are you on about, Griff? But it was probably one of the funniest things I'd ever seen, because this build-up had been going on for fucking ages, do you know what I mean? And there was all echoes going on, and nobody knew what the fuck they were on about. And Ash was doing his first live, or it was his first day doing lives. So he was but he was off his twat as well. So he was off trying to pretend to be fighting trolls, because he does try and pretend to be him. And he was half trying to pretend he was like some sort of serious presenter of a channel that was helping people with their mental health. And I'm sure that's what he intended to do, I'm sure he's a good boy at heart, but he's just as fucking mental as the rest of us. Slightly more so, maybe. And it was just absolute fucking mayhem. So he decided then to come back on last night, and I think the title of the thing, he wanted to have it out with Bobby K again from Dundee. Because Paul the Geordie had given Bobby K a load of shit on that fucking Christmas one. So there was a bit of a war going on with them, so Ash decided last night, right, he was going to have it out with everyone, and just ended up absolute fucking mayhem. I was up, right, and I woke up this morning, I thought, fuck, you need to take a good long look at yourself, Richard. Bro, I was watching that last night. I was going to go to bed, like fucking 12 o'clock or something, 1 o'clock. And that positive vibes, I thought, before I go to bed, I'll soak up some positive vibes, just bolster my own sort of mental health, on the back of Ash's show. I thought, yeah, it won't do you any harm, Richard, to have a little boost, a little top-me-up of positive vibes before bed. Put it on, and it was complete and utter fucking mayhem, do you know what I mean? Ash was going to war with everybody. He ended up coming out with, I'm not going to repeat it, but he ended up coming out with some obviously obscenely inappropriate things to say to people of what he was going to do to their partners. And then he went off, and then he came back on, and then he went off, and then he came back on. And then he was talking, and you could see, he's 10, 15 cans in. I'm sure he was, because he said recently his beak bill's gone from $1,000 a week down to $250. So I'm sure because he was doing a late show, I'm sure he was giving himself a bit of supplementation to keep himself on the ball, as he does. So so basically he was completely off his twat. He was having wars with everybody. You'll see in one of the screen grab fucking videos that somebody's put out, when I think it's that fighting Irish guy who fighting trolls has had a beef with. When he come on, Ash was like, "Oh, it's fighting trolls, is it?" And he was actually mimicking fighting trolls, his body language that fighting trolls does when he's about to fucking lay into somebody. So, Ash is obviously a very deeply troubled man, lacking in identity, mental health issues. I think he said he's got ADHD, but he doesn't take his medication, which, that's up to him really. He said doesn't like the way it makes him feel. But he's obviously lacking in identity. He's got sort of addiction issues, a wild guess, with cocaine and alcohol. And he's very impressionable, and he's probably a bit lonely as well. So he thought, oh, I'll start a channel. I could be like Paul, but I'll do it my way. Because before his one yesterday, which ended up with him having to close his channel down overnight unless YouTube have done it, he actually said, within 4 months, I'm going to be bigger than fighting trolls. And didn't work out like that. As much as he was aiming for positive vibes. Yes, we've been on and off loads of times, yeah, offering people fights, and he's going to go up to Dundee to fight Bobby Kyle, I think his name is. I know, he told some of his story last night, harrowing stuff. This is the thing, see, this, the juxtaposition, right, between people telling, between the sort of comedy and the tragedy side of it, and, some of the things that Bobby guy's sort of gone through growing up and all that, it was like, that's the only word I can think of. It was like fucking harrowing, deeply traumatic stuff he's been through, and he's lost his brother recently, and his brother died recently, so last thing he needs to be involved with is like fucking big rocks online with these people who are mental as well, do you know what I mean? But yeah, so Ash had been on and off loads of times. He'd arranged fucking all these fights and blah blah blah. And then he'd come back on, and some Scouse guy appears out of nowhere. Like a fucking angel sent from heaven. Now, this Scouse guy, I think his name was Jay, he started talking to to Ashley, really trying to help him. And this Scouse guy was obviously very clued up about this whole YouTube game. And he was, on about like how deeply it's negatively impacting everybody's mental health, and going into the sort of psychology of the real reasons behind a lot of it, Just that thing of sort of men, a lot of men not really having a lot of direction these days, and, the suicide being the biggest killer of men under a certain age, and, in the old days, innit? Blokes would know what they were supposed to be doing, really, wouldn't they? They'd be like, especially working class men, do you know what I mean? They'd be tradesmen, or they'd work in factories, or they'd work in steelworks, or they'd work in coal mines, or car factories. So a bloke who had not particularly done great at school, or who had no interest in all that, who wanted to work in a more practical manner. I know a lot of the trades are still about, but a lot of unskilled manual workers were able to earn good money by working in things like coal mines and steelworks and car factories and the likes. And most of those jobs have now gone. So there's a large amount of men now don't have those type of jobs. I ended up spending a large part of my working life in a fucking call centre, Call me sexist or whatever, but in the old days that was a bird's job, wasn't it? And it was only the fact that I was such an incredible salesman that I was able to earn decent money doing it. But it's not good for your mental health, those types of jobs, if you're of a certain type of person, i.e. me. So yeah, so that job combined with my addiction issues, my self-inflicted mental health issues as a result of my addiction issues, and working in a job like that, having to listen to complete and you're not allowed to say the R word anymore. Yeah, it's so somebody have a row, but I do because I've got my own meaning for it. So having to listen to complete and utter retards. Yeah, it didn't do me any fucking favours. So there's a large amount of people knocking about who are like a bit directionless, a bit, there's a lot of men that are like insecure, and and it's not something you're supposed to admit. And it's only now that I got to a certain age, not now, it's been like this for a while, but I'm past caring, to be honest with you. I've never been one of these people that try and impress other people with like cars and clothes, and, I haven't got a car. I can't remember the last time I bought clothes. It's never been really something I've been particularly fussed about. I've always been a bit of a fucking, bit of like a hippie type, you know. Never into fighting and nothing like that. You know, I never sort of, it was never enough to fill the hole in me, you know. Winning a few fights or having a nice coat or having a smart bird or driving a fucking better car than next door. You know, I think subconsciously I knew that the stuff like that was never gonna sort of complete me, you know, so I never bothered fucking worrying about it. So I tried to fill that hole with drugs. Worked pretty well up to a point, but then it stopped working, and then it just caused that hole to sort of start spewing out emotional molten lava, shall we say. So I had to fill that hole with something else, and I chose to fill it with God. I didn't. Um, I haven't really filled it, to be honest with you, but I've patched up the leaks, and I no longer overfill it. And sometimes it seeps a bit, you know. There's a bit of moisture coming out of it as we speak. But it's more manageable anyway, you know, as I say, it's more manageable. And I'm continuing to try and find a way to positively fill that hole. But I've bought myself enough time anyway. Yes, there's a lot of people struggling, and you know, blokes in their 20s. I play foot golf, right? And we got like a, you know, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, you know, but I've single-handedly created a league system down there. We've now got a team as well. We went away to play an event, Swansea Foot Golf, the Mumbles Road Mandem, and we finished second in the UK, losing in a penalty shootout to Glasgow, who are widely recognised as the best team in the country. But down there, we got blokes in our league. Well, we got one kid who's 9 who plays with his dad, but generally we've got people there from age 18 up to, I'm trying to work out, up to what age? Up to your age, Griff, because you're the oldest. I think, yeah, up to 30, older, 40, up to, you know, late 40s. So we got loads of blokes in their 20s, blokes in their 30s, blokes in their 40s who are playing, you know, in our leagues and in the competitions. And, you know, you can see as we got to know each other, this wasn't the whole point, but what I'm looking to build there, or what we are building there, is a community, you know, where we all look out for each other. You know, we have that interaction socially, bit of competition because it's a league system, but then we play as a team sometimes, so it's that bonding. And yeah, we can all look out for each other, you know, and you can tell if somebody's struggling a bit, and people are sort of opening up a bit to each other, and etc. etc. So it stops people isolating away on their own, like we're all doing now, because it's winter. I say we all, I am, don't know, I'm sure most of the others aren't. Excuse me. But yes, that's been a big help. But through the Foot Golf League, and also through, you know, a lot of my jobs in call centres, I've always had, you know, a lot of friends, acquaintances, or whatever, you know, in their 20s and that. And I remember myself, you know, you're fucking very insecure at that age, and you really can't talk to your mates about it. Do you know what I mean? You know, I know in this brave new world, men are supposed to open up more and all that, but it's probably not happening that much. I remember with my mates, yeah, like the ones I was in sort of junior school with, who I ended up being sort of friendly with afterwards. Not afterwards, you know, we stayed friends, you know, for life basically. But I remember when we were all like 16, 17, 18, going out on the piss and blah, blah. And it was all that bravado, do you know what I mean? And we'd have fights and all that nonsense. And nobody would sort of admit to any weakness, do you know what I mean? And then we got to a certain age, I think it happened in our sort of mid to late 20s. You know, when a lot of the boys had had kids, some people had kids and split up, and then we're going through all the palaver that can ensue when you've split up with when you've got an ex we've got to continue to deal with for another 10, 15 years. And divorces and all that was happening. And I think it was only at that point where some of the boys, not all, started opening up a bit, opening up a bit more about the struggle, about the fact that they were struggling a bit. And as I say, it wasn't commonplace, but it was happening a little bit. I was noticing as we were getting in our late 20s. And then round about when we were all 29, 30, we just all started doing smack. And that was the end of that. People stopped opening up again. And yeah. That was the end of that. But I'll tell you that story another time. Yeah, anyway, I hope you're having a great new year. I thought I'd leave it a few days, to do my sort of New Year, New Me speech. Because where are we? I think it's about the 3rd or the 4th today. I still haven't done any proper exercise. I've been smoking just as much as usual. My diet is still a complete and utter farce, and I'm not particularly going out of my way to help people, so they would have been wasted resolutions to make. So good job I never made them again. Yeah, anyway, as I say, I hope Ash Dring's alright. Ash, if you're watching this, I'll put your name in the title because you're probably scouring the internet for any information about yourself. Positive vibes. I did suggest it to you in the chat towards the beginning of your channel. I said, what you want to do is get people on one-to-one, right? Speak to people, get one person at a time on the panel, sometimes two, if you know one of them is sensible that have a proper chat with people and stop reading the comments. Do you know what I mean? Because like what was happening with them, somebody would start opening up, they'd come on and think, oh, Ash said he's going to help people with their mental health. Somebody'd come on and they'd be like, yeah, what is Ash? I haven't been out today at all and I'm drinking too much and blah, blah, blah. Somebody would start opening up, possibly for the first time ever. And then Ash would be like, Ash a minute. Look at this twat. And he'd read a comment in the chat. Ignore the guy who's opening his heart to him. And just start offering the person in the chat out for a straightener. for $5,000. Saying that Paul Clayton was going to be his fair play man. So yeah, I just want the best for everybody, mate. I think Ash and Paul need to sort their drinking out. I've said this, and it applies to me as well. I think all of these, there's two types of mental health issues as I see it. There's the one that you've got regardless, yeah? If you've got some sort of mental health problem, and with a lot of those, you probably need medication. And then there's also the mental health problems that are largely self-inflicted. They're a sort of direct byproduct of addiction. And addiction, there's lots of different ways of looking at it until I actually took responsibility for it myself and thought, do you know what, Reg, you're actually, nobody's controlling my hands, do you know what I mean? Nobody's ever gone and put drugs in my hand and then put them in my mouth or whatever, it's always been me moving my own hands with my brain. Didn't always feel like I was in control of my brain. And obviously when your body is going, right, we've played this game for so long now, we actually need this shit now. And then your hands and your brain go, hey, the body needs it, so we're not even going to question it. And then once you get to that stage, it's fucking fucked, isn't it? So then you have to go through a whole lot of shit to get out of that. And not everybody's prepared to do that. But I would suggest it. Yeah, there's this sort of largely self-inflicted type of mental health problems, which, if you're fucking drinking 100 fucking pints a week and you're depressed, chances are, if you don't drink £100 a week, you're probably going to feel better. If you're smoking 10, 15, 20 joints a day, and you feel like fucking mental, or as soon as you run out of weed, you just want to fucking start smashing people's heads in, because weed's all about peace and love. Maybe you need to do something about that. I've never been a fan of cocaine, so I can't really comment too much about all that, but I've seen the state some people get in, obviously, and I've had a few blasts myself. It's fucking not pleasant, is it? I never understood it, cocaine. It's like, and apparently these days, isn't it, you got your fucking, what do they call it? Bang, is it, or something? You got your pub grub, as they say. You got your £40 fucking a gram, 3 for 80, 3 for 90, or whatever it is. It's probably like fucking 5%, 10% pure or whatever, and people just smash it up their nose every 5 minutes thinking that they're Tony Montana. And then apparently then you could pay like 80 or 90 quid for like decent stuff, do you know what I mean? Either way, to me it was just like, right, how much is it going to cost me to make myself feel a little bit more fucking anxious than I do already? Do you know what I mean? But I need something that will give me the ability to be able to talk complete and utter shit and ignore anybody who's talking to me. Oh, right, yeah, you're probably better off going for the 80 quid stuff then. Do you know what I mean? So it never really appealed to me. Although I did occasionally like to smoke crack. Not very often, like. But, and I'm with an accompanying dessert. I can see the point, I can see the attraction in that, As I say, I'm not advocating it's a fucking really bad idea. I'm completely drug-free, and I would suggest that anybody who can't use drugs sensibly, don't use them at all, do you know what I mean? Because otherwise they're going to use you. But certain drugs, there was an appeal to because of the way they made you feel, They solved a purpose and a problem until they ceased to be working as a solution. But yeah, I could never understand coke. What's my mate say about it? He says it makes strangers of your friends, and it makes friends of strangers. And yeah, I suppose that's right. So yeah, YouTubers of the world, YouTubers of the world unite. There's a lot of YouTubers who are just getting on with it, quite sort of, decent, balanced human beings or whatever. And there's a lot of them, stroke us, who are just a bit fucked up, And you've got to be very careful that you know which side of that fence you're on. Because that's the problem with drugs for me. If you're one of the people, if you're a person like me, right, who's unable to control drugs once you start using them to the point where you will destroy your life, and you've got a mate who loves his drugs and can enjoy them, and it doesn't destroy his life, it's very dangerous if I think that I can use drugs the same way as him, because I'll try, and I can't. But I'll try. So yeah, very important to know which side of any particular fence you're on, whatever the subject. Anyway, sorry if I've been a little bit too over animated today, a bit too enthusiastic, throwing out too much energy or whatever. I apologise for that. I tried to tone it down from my usual sort of frantic style, power packed. But yeah, I'm only looking to attract sort of subscribers who I would actually be able to get on with in the real world, I think we're up to 220, 230 nearly, I think now. And I get more views than I got subs, so I like that. I wouldn't, I sometimes see these channels have got like 70,000 subs, and they put a video up and it gets 500 views, I think. that must be a little bit, that must hurt, you know? So yeah, so I'd rather be myself, not throw in too much razzmatazz, and yeah, and attract like-minded people. Talking of razzmatazz,